The only way to celebrate New Year's Eve in Holland is with Olliebollen. Currants, raisins, and delicious apples, all in a pastry deep fried. My Oma first taught me how to make Olliebollen, and I just love them. They're a lot like a donut, so we have to use yeast, but don't panic, it's really simple. I've started with 1 cup of warmed milk. And what the warm milk does with the yeast is it just activates it. I'm gonna give that a quick stir, and then I'll just set that aside and let that yeast start to do its work. Next, I'm just gonna prepare an apple. You can peel the apple, but I really like to leave the skins on as long as it's a newer apple. And with the new apple, you have really nice skin. And I just make a fine slice, like so. Again, keeping it simple. And then just turn it the other direction and slice again. Perfect. So I've got about 1.5 apples here that can go directly into my flour. And the great thing about this recipe is it's just a matter of assembling the ingredients and building the recipe. With that yeast completely incorporated into the warm milk, add that. 1 egg. And just start folding that together. With all those ingredients nicely combined, I can add the currants and the raisins. Currants are such a powerful punch of flavor, and they're really classic with the Olliebollen, and the raisins bring a really beautiful sweetness. Fold those in to fully incorporate. They'll soak up some of the moisture and rehydrate a little bit. What I want to do now is take a damp cloth and put this either above your refrigerator or someplace that's a little warm and let that rise. It'll take about 45 minutes. After proofing for about 45 minutes, let's have a look. Oh, look at that. That is just beautiful. It's fragrant. I can smell that yeast at work. The deep fryer has been preheated to 375 degrees. I'm going to drop it down so the basket isn't in the way. I do want to leave the basket in to catch anything. The key is to kind of drop it into position, and when I do, gently release it. I'm using my Oma's from the old country, from Holland. Wonder how many Olliebollen this has made in its history. So you just take a little ball of the dough, 2 spoons, and gently place it into the oil. Careful not to burn yourself. Gently rolling each ball in, and just a little bit of a wag, if you will, when you drop it in. And what it does is it just allows it to float so it doesn't drop in and get entangled in the cage in the bottom. They look just beautiful. When the first side is nicely browned, you can roll them over. They tip over like an iceberg, and start browning the second side. Look at those little beauties. Golden and delicious. The Olliebollen are now finished. Important to drain them. So have a towel prepared and a plate. Make sure to drain them well before you put the powdered sugar on them. But look at these little golden, delicious donuts. There's something really heartwarming about warm apples and raisins and this pastry. What I love is that you can reach into the past, pick out an international dish, and find something that is so unique, and then you can make it your own. And year after year, your kids, your grandparents, your family, they'll all be asking you for the same thing. They'll be saying, bring out the Olliebollen. Crispy potato latkes are a staple at many holiday tables, and this apple-plum sauce is the perfect complement. You don't have to celebrate Hanukkah to appreciate these beautiful crispy potato latkes. And this plum sauce with the apple sauce together is very seasonal. I know you're going to love it. So really simple preparation. Take the sides off the apple. We're gonna leave skin on. If you wanted a much lighter, almost blonde color to the applesauce, you'd peel the skins, but I want all that richness in. So I'm just gonna take and slice these down. That way they'll break down quickly. With all of the apples completely trimmed and my plums now pitted, just gonna pull that pit out. These plums are nice and ripe and quartered. Again, skin on the plums. Everything can go into the slow cooker. Now I've set my Cuisinart slow cooker to high and I'll run it for about 30 minutes. Into that, to get it started, a cup of water. And I have a cup of brown sugar. Some butter. The butter will give it some nice richness. And I'll toss in a couple cinnamon sticks. To kick up these latkes a little bit, I'm going to use a little used product called Celeriac. It's really simple to use, especially when you're just grating it. Simple, slice in half and quarter it, taking both the root and the tip off. The thing I love about Celeriac is it's so fragrant. Then with a flat bottom, I can just gently run the knife right around the root, taking off, I'm telling you, I wish you could smell this. The smell coming off this, it's incredible and it's so distinct and unique. Then with the box grater, I'm just gonna take and shred. And a little celeriac goes a long way. Look at that beautiful, beautiful white flesh. It's something that once you use, I'm sure you'll use it again and again. The same can be done with the potatoes. Now these potatoes I shredded just before. You can see they're starting to turn color. If you keep them submerged in water, it'll prevent them from turning too much. What you do is lift it up and just give them a really good squeeze and then drop them in. You don't want it to be too wet because when you start frying these, you want them to be as dry as possible. It is nice though to soak them in the water because they get nice and plump and it makes a real difference to the texture of the latke. If you have any trouble getting the water out of the potatoes, you can lay it on a dish towel, roll it up and wring it out, and that way it gets them really dry too. Now, I've got some finely sliced onion. I love fried onion, so I'm adding some onion. And then we're gonna add that celeriac. Look at that gorgeous celeriac. And then one thing I always add is fresh thyme. I've got some beautiful fresh thyme. I'll just strip off the leaves. I'm not worried about even some of these nice tender branches getting in there. They're so fragrant, and the thing is, this combination of root veg is just unmistakably incredible. So in with 4 eggs. The eggs really bind it together. You can actually make this without the eggs as well if you'd rather not. The starch in the potatoes binds it together and you'll get beautiful little pancakes. So just a quick whip. And quick seasoning of both my mixture and the eggs before I put it in. Some fresh ground black pepper and some nice flaked sea salt. I'll bring this together. And just before I massage that on into nice little patties, I'm gonna add a nice coating of butter. You can shallow fry latkes, but in this case, this is frankly a little bit healthier. We're gonna use less fat. Any of the excess fat will drain off the back of the griddler. And if I wanted to, I could even use both sides and make myself a perfect little pancake. These latkes are like personal size. I also like to make them large and then cut them into quarters. So I've used the green pan and I've got butter in the bottom, and this one I'm gonna make a big latke. Pressing it into the bottom of the pan, pushing that beautiful fat out to the sides, just like that. It's nice if it looks just slightly irregular, and then some extra fresh thyme on top of that. Look at that. And you know what? I'll hit that with just a little bit more pepper. And the same with the ones on the grill. Making sure to season as I go. Bit more salt. Potatoes can soak up a lot of salt. And I'll get this one back on the stove. With my apple-plum sauce reducing nicely, these latkes are ready to turn. And look at that beautiful golden color. The smell, the iron and the butter it's hitting that celeriac and the thyme and bringing it to life. It looks amazing. Let's have a look at this green pan. This is why I like these. Look at how that's moving inside the pan. Absolutely no resistance, and I can toss it easily and get really great results. Back on the oven. Your own homemade apple plum sauce in just about 30 minutes. It's absolutely incredible. The fragrance is filling my kitchen. Now, back to the latkes. I just want to drain them on paper for just a minute to pick up any of that excess oil. Nothing more unpleasant than that really heavy oil flavor. That's really why we use the plum sauce, because it cuts that up a little bit and balances out. Now let's have a look at our big boy back here. Look at how that finished, how easily it comes out of the pan. What I like to do is just take that, slice and turn and slice. You can take those wedges, then go out to the table like that. Oh, these are so fragrant. And then these are great because you can literally pick them up. They're like little beautiful potato pancakes. 2, 3, look at that. Oh. Key is to make sure to let them drain. I'm serving them right now hot. They're really perfect hot. I have to try some of this applesauce. I know it's going to be warm. Oh. The plum and the apple, that little bit of sugar, the cinnamon. Let me just get a bite of this. Try it with that apple. You can double dip in your own kitchen. That celeriac is beautiful. You won't regret making this at home. Your family and friends will savor this incredible dish for Eid. It's going to be a beautiful, roasted, stuffed leg of lamb. A leg of lamb is filled with all kinds of beautiful marbling and incredible flavor. To butterfly the lamb leg, normally you would fully remove the leg bone. I want to leave it in because in the pan, all of the marrow and all that beautiful flavor is going to melt into the sauce that I finished this with. I've started by following the bone to butterfly it. Now, I just simply open that up, and with one more pass, I simply open it. And the key is really that we want all of this to be more or less the same thickness. That way it'll have the same doneness. The other thing is this flavor base, this stuffing we add will be throughout the entire leg rather than just in one portion. So with that pressed out, I'm going to start to layer a few flavors. I've got a little bit of carrot that I'm going to add. Some of these are non-traditional flavor bases for this, but I think it makes an exceptional dish. Carrot, celery, onion, so I've got a classic mirepoix there. And now I'm going to start building some flavors. Dried apricots that have been reconstituted. I have some beautiful currants. Look at that color already. I love these flavors, that savory and sweet coming together. It's just perfect. Salt. We're going to season the inside and the outside, making sure to season in layers. Black pepper. And now we're going to brighten that up with some orange zest. The orange zest and that oil is going to cook down into all of the meat. Look at that. Looks incredible already. Now I've got some fresh thyme. I'm just going to take and strip off those edges, strip off those leaves. Put some of those tender ends in there. That's just fine. And I've got a couple big pieces of fresh rosemary. I'm going to strip that off and put that through that center as well. You don't want to overfill this because then it'll just come busting out the side. You want to make sure you get just enough without it being too dramatic. There, perfect. Now the great thing is we just take and roll that back in. We tuck all that incredible flavor right inside. Turn it over, and now it's ready to be tied. Now using the tip of a sharp knife, I'm going to take quartered garlic cloves, slivers, and I'm just going to slice in and then press that garlic down deep inside. Press and just work your way around the leg, making sure to get garlic flavor throughout the whole piece of meat. It's simple to do, and what this does, it'll guarantee infused flavor right throughout the meat. Let's face it, lamb is a powerfully flavored protein, and when you add garlic, you want to make sure that you really balance out that flavor. That's why we're going to use the red wine later to stand up to that strong flavor. There we go, completely covered. I'm just going to put a light score across that fat cap. Want that to open up. If I score it just slightly, it'll give me nice crispy bits all the way through. Key is we're going to put this into the oven and just begin tying here. So I'm going to tie a double knot at the one end just to make sure it doesn't run away on me. When we put it into the oven, we're going to start at 425 degrees and then roast it for about 20 minutes until it's nice and crispy. I'm just doing a little turn here, drawing it back and tying, making sure that it's snug, not too tight, but I want to make absolutely certain that it's not going to go anywhere. With a nice clean tie at the end, it's ready for the roasting pan. I'm going to put a little bit more of this carrot in the bottom of the pan. I've used a peeler to just make ribbons because I want this to break down fully. And I'm going to add some of the onion as well. It's going to make a really nice base for my sauce in the end. And into the pan it goes. I'm going to put a little bit of this fruit that'll help to sweeten my sauce on both sides. Now, the juice from an orange, I'm just going to squeeze that right over top. Gorgeous. And I'm just going to toss that wedge in there a little bit more. Gorgeous. So there's a ton of sugar in there now. Just a little bit of water in the pan so that sugar doesn't burn. And lastly, we want to make sure we get some of that flaked sea salt all over the surface. It is a quite thick piece of meat, so we want to make absolutely certain that it gets seasoned all over. Fresh ground black pepper. And I've got a bit more of this reserved rosemary. Take and strip off those fresh leaves. Just arrange those on top. Get a bit more thyme. Just take some of those sprigs, lay them right across. A good drizzle of extra virgin olive oil. And this is ready to go into the oven for 20 minutes at 425 degrees. After that, we'll bring it out, cover it up, reduce the heat, and we'll cook it until it's fall off the bone good. After 20 minutes, I'm going to drop the temperature down to about 300 degrees. And let's have a look at where this is at. Look at that incredible finish. It's nice and crispy on the outside. Now the key is I want to keep all of that inside. So I'm going to tuck this foil around it, making sure to cover it completely. Push that back in and let it to continue cook for about 2.5 hours. International holiday food traditions are as creative and unique as the holidays themselves. Indian butter chicken is one of the most heartwarming dishes I've ever had. This dish is so heartwarming, you will just fall in love with it. The thing that makes it so great is all of the elevated flavors with the spices. They're truly incredible. Before I mix the spice, I just want to very quickly heat up some butter. Traditionally use ghee or a clarified butter. I like to use just straight butter. First of all, it's something you probably have in the house already, but there are layers of flavor that are removed in ghee that I love to have here in the butter. So on the stove this goes. I'm gonna bring that up to temperature, and while I do, I'm gonna throw together some fresh spices. So I'm gonna take one cinnamon stick, and it goes. Great thing is with a spice grinder is you can really take big, powerful flavors. You can take whole seeds, nuts, and berries, and you can pack them in, and in just a push of a button, literally have an incredible flavor base. As that comes together, I also have a garam masala, and that's perfectly ground, completely and totally fragrant, with my butter nicely melted. And I've got that beautiful nutty flavor that comes from brown butter developed. Sit that down. These chicken pieces can go in, and you can marinate this ahead of time, but like many times when you're at home, you don't have a lot of time. So this is a dish that can be prepared very quickly, and you get many of the same flavors. If you have a chance to marinate it ahead of time, you can bring all these flavors together, put the chicken in the marinade, and then saute. It's really important when sauteing right now that you don't crowd the pan. Season the chicken now with some salt and a little bit of pepper, and saute it until it's golden brown, turning it until all the chicken is cooked. Cook it in batches, and then we'll remove it and get started with the flavor base. With all the chicken nicely sauteed and browned, and it's really important to brown it so that you get that flavor development first on the chicken before adding in all of the flavor base. So just pull that out, leave the little bit of fat that's left inside, and now I'll add some onions. I've got some jalapeno peppers, some ginger, lots of heat, chopped garlic. It smells incredible already. Now a quick season with salt and pepper, and back to the stove to saute. These veg are sauteed nicely. I love the high size of this cast light cookware. Now it's time for the spices to go in. So I'm going to put some of my mixed spice in, some of that beautiful coriander. It's important to do it at this stage so the spices become toasted, they become fragrant, and it really brings them to life. Then some of the garam masala, beautiful. And just another toss there, and you can smell it. That heat is radiating. That's a nice thing about this cast iron combination cookware, is it holds the heat and continues to radiate. Let's deglaze with some chicken stock. And you can see even off the stove, I'm able to deglaze. Mix that up a little bit. Now, the chicken goes back in with all those beautiful juices. Gorgeous. I'm gonna put that back on the stove with the coconut milk. Look at that. It's just beautiful. This combination of flavors, it's just, honestly, there's nothing like it. Give it a good stir. Mix that up. I'll put it back on the stove, and when it's tender, about another 10 to 15 minutes, I'll finish it up. Look at this. Isn't that beautiful? I'm gonna finish by just pulling some of these coriander leaves. I like to leave the leaves whole, just like that. Just pulling to finish. Some cashews. I'm just gonna turn that over once, just to activate all of that flavor from the coriander, fresh cilantro. I have to have a taste. Oh, it's hot. That is a perfect Indian butter chicken. a look at our gorgeous stuffed lamb leg. Oh, now that's a finish. A little bit of red wine. And this is gonna go straight to the stovetop, reduce just a little bit. I'll pull the lamb leg out, let it rest, and then this will make a perfect pan sauce. This will make an incredible holiday feast.